Let me start first with James Harden. James Harden is having himself a day or two or 50. Why don't we start first with the on-court action? He made his preseason debut last night. He had 12 points and then started an absolute tsunami on Twitter. Tsunami is such a good word. Quick, clone, spell it. Yeah, good luck with that. You can't spell Rome. Spell tsunami. Hey, Hawk, spell it. Be quiet, Hawk. All right, so it's crazy because James Harden, one of the greatest players in NBA history, makes his preseason debut after a very, very weird offseason. And exactly 0 people are talking about how he played last night. It's not about that. James Harden is now sharing a backcourt with John Wall. They could form one of the most explosive duos in the league, and yet nobody's talking about that or their on-court chemistry. But people are talking a hell of a lot about James Harden. And not because he went 3 for 10 from the field, but because he looked like he went 3-10 on the scale. How hyped are your clones? How hyped are you clones? And there's Alvin's fat alarm. If you have not seen the photo, I suggest you track it down immediately, only to judge for yourself. Now, I don't want you to judge necessarily because everybody's already done that. And the verdict is grim. Grim for him. Lots of jokes about his physique. And by his physique, I mean his boiler. Dude is not exactly out here promoting premium gut health, if you know what I mean. If that photo was legit. Because, again, there were jokes. Lots and lots of jokes. Like Field Yates, quote, playing 2-guard for the Rockets tonight and 3 technique for the Texans on Sunday. M. Shadows, 17, quote, 2020 James Harden giving off 2013 Eddie Lacy vibes. Like Harden was looking so solid, he was getting compared to Kendrick Perkins. And he had Rick Ross trending. And it got so serious that even Perk himself had to weigh in, retweeting a pic of Harden in the warm-ups with the caption, quote, yep, I got a wig on. And let me say this about that. I don't know if he is fat. I mean, sure, he looks fat, but I don't know if that still image of him circulating is just a moment where maybe he was inhaling and puffing out his chest. Look, I'm not here to judge. I'm not about that. He's always been kind of a big bone dude. He's always been barrel-chested. He's been a guy who has been solid for most of his career and will still show up and drop 40 on your head, and there's nothing you can do about it. So to me, it's not really a big issue. He's trying to win a basketball game, not a six-pack competition. We know this about this guy. I also know, however, that during the quarantine, he was hitting it hard, and he looked absolutely shredded. I mean, I was inspired. I was impressed. I did not expect that from that guy. He looked amazing. And yes, in this photo now, he looks like he just ate a 50-piece from McDonald's. He looks like he just slammed a 50-piece, but he can just as easily drop a 50-piece on your head. And if you think about the reports of where he's been instead of being in training camp, I could see where people might jump to the conclusion that he has been partying way too hard and putting on LBs. I mean, again, my man is the anti-Jimmy Butler. Butler is rolling out at 4 o'clock in the morning to get his work in. Harden is rolling in at 4 o'clock in the morning after getting his work in. They're just not doing the same work. But again, I'm not here to judge, and I'm not here to fat shame this guy because I don't even know if he is fat. I mean, this might just be a matter of a bad angle at a bad moment. Ask Derek Eater. He knows all about that. Remember that pick. So miss me with your James Harden, more like James Hardy's smack. Hey, Rome, James Harden was in his bag all right. The feed bag. Hey, Van Smack. I see Harden's been working on his handles. His love handles. If your first thought was to email me with some weak James Harden joke, delete your account, change your name, move to a different state. Because you only embarrass yourself, and worse yet, you embarrass me with your James Harden jokes. You bring me and the show down. If you want to talk about James Harden, I'm happy to do that. Because there's more than that pick. In fact, there's a whole lot to talk about. Because on top of all of that fat smack, ESPN just dropped an incredible column on him. And if you combine that article with the photo from last night, it is one hell of a combo. Why don't we talk about that article for a minute? Early on in the piece, the Rockets' culture is described by one former staffer as, quote, whatever James wants, end quote. And apparently what James wants is something else. For example, quote, if the Rockets had 2 or 3 days between games, it was a good bet Harden would call for an off day and charter a private jet to party in Las Vegas or another city. He always gets an excused absence from the first practice after the All-Star break for the same reason, end quote.
Keeps a private jet.
He does keep a private jet. I'm not sure what's more amazing, the fact that he would be jetting to Vegas nearly every chance he could, or the fact that he comes back and then goes for 40. One coach from last year said, quote, if they have multiple days off, everybody knows James is going to fly somewhere else and party. But he's going to come back and have a 50-point triple-double, so they're okay with it, end quote. All right, so this guy's going that hard. He's hitting it that hard, yet he rarely misses games. He plays a ton of minutes, and he parties a ton of minutes, allegedly. I mean, this dude's a legend. There's part of me that wonders how much better this guy would be if he didn't hit it so hard, if he didn't go so hard, if he didn't party so hard. But then maybe partying is just his version of John Smoltz golfing. Maybe partying makes him a better player. Is that possible? And speaking of which, sidebar, I have this great podcast with Clinton Portis today, and there's a part of that where we talk about guys and how hard they go. And the fact that he would see guys out in a club until 5 o'clock in the morning, or see guys wandering into the hotel lobby at 5 o'clock in the morning and then just go off that night or that day. So maybe there's something to it, right? But there's more to it than just his hard partying ways. Apparently, my man had a hammer in the organization. My man could dictate policy. The piece blames Harden for the firing of Kevin McHale and the trading away of Dwight Howard and Chris Paul. And it lays out how Russell Westbrook was, quote, appalled by the casual culture in Houston. According to one assistant, quote, nothing ever starts on time. The plane is always late. The bus is never on time. It's just an organized AAU team, end quote. I mean, this is an amazing column. That's an amazing statement. But the paragraph from the piece is even better. Quote, after the Rockets let it be known that they would not be swayed by unhappiness, Harden delayed his arrival to camp, instead choosing to hang out with rapper Lil Baby, gifting his friend a Prada bag stuffed with honey buns, a $100,000 brick of cash, a.k.a. a honey bun, and a Richard Mille watch worth well into 6 figures for Lil Baby's birthday, while leaving Silas hanging, end of quote. I mean, I could do 3 hours on this. A Prada bag stuffed with honey buns and a brick of cash is the single greatest gift in the history of mankind. Man, what would you give to be boys with James Harden? Yo, happy birthday, bro. I got you a bag. What's in the bag, man? What's in the bag? $100,000, honey buns, and a super expensive watch. Man, my man, yeah, I know, clones. I am well aware he's doling out honey buns and then shows up like he ate honey buns. Keep moving. I'm saying he gave one of his dudes a brick of cash, $100,000, and a watch worth that amount, and a bunch of honey buns. Yo, James, my birthday is October 14th, bro. What you got? I also want to say there are probably 2 sides to every story, right? So there's about 1 billion sides to this story. There's a lot of people who have a lot of thoughts on what happened to the Rockets over the past few years who have axes to grind. We know this. I'm sure there's a lot of people on the wrong side of that have axes to grind. So you want to take all of this with a grain of salt or a bunch of honey buns. Just because Harden was doing it doesn't mean that everybody else is innocent. As one assistant coach aptly pointed out, quote, "We knew who the boss of the organization was. That's just part of what the deal was when you go to Houston. The players, coaches, GM, owner all know. I don't blame James. I blame the organization. It's not his fault. He did what they allowed him to do." Dude, that's incredible. The players, coaches, GM, the owner knew that James Harden was running things? One more great quote. A former assistant coach said, quote, "You can't get mad at your kid if you let him eat candy every night. And then suddenly one night you don't, and they throw a tantrum. You're the one who let them eat candy every night." Hey, Rid, is that what happened to you? Is that why you're like a 75-year-old guy who just smashes candy all day long? If we take Ritz candy, he'll be like, candy. You see that pic from yesterday? Candy. You might think that Harden quite literally is eating candy every night. Like, I don't know what's right. I don't know what's wrong. I don't know what's happening in Houston. I can see why some people would be pissed when they read this because he's not working as hard as he can and because that organization seems like a complete mess right now. But my question is, before I go to break, how much of that is on Harden and how much of that is on everybody else? Like this notion of Harden partying hard, this is nothing new. That's part of his deal. That's part of his brand. He's going to go down as one of the greatest players in NBA history and one of the greatest partiers in NBA history. And if that picture is legit, one of the greatest eaters in NBA history. My man is halfway to Oliver Miller. My man is halfway to Cleveland Cavaliers' Sean Kemp. That is an amazing column. 1-800-636-8686. Some quick reaction. Hey, Rome, can I get in on that double lunch Garrett Ritt was having today? Signed James Harden. What did I just say about the James Harden references? Dumb, man. Easy, dumb, and lame. Brian in Charlotte. Were you not listening, man? Or did you have too much bleeping money in your ear? I said, I don't want any James Harden references. Don't embarrass yourself. Don't embarrass your community. Don't embarrass me. Don't bring me down. Don't bring my show down. Brian in Charlotte. Matthew tweets, James Harden or James Corden? Jeff in Green Bay tweets, damn. Man, looks like he already got traded to Milwaukee. Back away from the cheese plate. All right, once again, we've seen pictures that were not what they appear. Everybody rushed in on Derek Jeter. Remember those shots in the tabloids of Derek Jeter looking all fat up in here? And he wasn't. Bad angle, bad pick. I don't really know. It just wasn't accurate. So I'm trying to give the beard the benefit of the doubt. But my man looks portly. My man looks like John Gruden. He looks chunked up.
Hey, John.
But I don't know. We'll see. Jacob in NorCal. More like James Hard to Breathe. Am I right? Romy. You just messed up big time, fat man.
You just messed up big time, fat man.
Regards James Heart Disease every time he steps on the scale. Geoff in Lincoln. See, again, the thing about this guy, until he came out of the quarantine, he was never, ever shredded. That's just not that guy's deal. I mean, he's never going to hit it like Jimmy Butler. He could go out there and run hard, get on his private jet, go to Vegas, go party, come back, and drop 40 on somebody. What's more intriguing to me is not that he looks like he added a bunch of LBs, but rather that piece in ESPN about how jacked the culture is and how he was the one calling all the shots in Houston. And that he was the one who got rid of CP3, that he was the one that got rid of Kevin McHale. He was the one who got rid of Dwight Howard. He's the reason that Russell Westbrook doesn't want to be there. Two things that doubled: Bitcoin and Harden's waistline, right? Allegedly. Nothing alleged about Bitcoin, yo. What's up, Ben Mesrek? What up, fam?
Yo.
Prince Paul 3 tweets, KD, Kyrie, no. I want to join forces with Brooklyn's Big Four of hot dogs, pizza, cheesecake, and bagels. Signed, James Harden. Something else.